You know, it's fascinating, this stadium issue, just like the vote back on April 2nd in Jackson County to now where we are today on the Kansas side of the state line. It crosses traditional party ideology. There are Republicans who voted for the bill in Kansas, Democrats who voted for the bill in Kansas. There are Democrats and Republicans who voted against the bill in Kansas. In Jackson County, Republicans and Democrats came together against that 3/8 sales tax. There are those who voted in favor of it. It's fascinating to me. And when it comes to obviously respected voices on the sports and news side in this community, there's no one we hold in higher regard than Kevin Kietzman, even though I know Kevin and I see this one a little bit different. Good morning, Kevin. How are you, my friend?
I'm great, Pete. Thanks for having me on, buddy. How you been?
I've been well. Hey, take me through where you're at. I saw some of your stuff on social media. I know you and I disagreed on social media, but then I heard your podcast and I thought to myself, okay, I think what Kevin is saying here is more that Kansas has saved the teams from looking somewhere else in the country. Is that the big point that you've been trying to get across the last couple of days?
This city, we are so scared of everything in this city. And when I say this city, I mean all of it. All 2.5 million of us. I don't care what county you're in, what state you're in. It doesn't matter to me. I've lived here my whole life. I don't see the state line. I couldn't care less. So we've been in this fear forever that the Royals were going to leave. Not necessarily the Chiefs, but that the Royals are going to leave. There was the small market scare. The Royals were broke. There was ownership issues. We've lived this our whole lives. So when this vote came up, what was the first thing they played? Keep the Royals. Let's keep the Royals. Let's keep the teams. Well, did they mean keep them in Jackson County? No, they didn't really say that. What they were saying was they were playing on the public fears that they know exists in this town and has for 50 years. That these teams could leave, like the Kansas City A's, like the Kansas City Scouts, like the Kansas City Kings, like the St. Louis Football Cardinals, like the St. Louis Rams. It happens over and over and over. So when they send you to the polls, they're scaring the living daylights out of you, saying, we got to keep these teams here. Yet when the Star Bonds passed this week, nobody's celebrating that we just kept the teams here. Period. End of statement. These teams are not leaving. No chance, no how. We have a plan. We have an answer. Now, maybe Jackson County can do better. Maybe Quentin Lucas can pull something out of his rear and save him in Kansas City, Missouri. Maybe Jefferson City, 7 months from now, will put it on their docket in the legislature and start talking about it for the first time ever. But I doubt it. Hey, if they do, great. Keep them in Missouri. I don't care where they are. I want them here. I want great deals for these teams, and I love these sports teams, and I don't want to lose them. And nobody is celebrating the fact that Kansas just saved both franchises.
Now, the fear that you mentioned there, Kevin Kietzman on KCMO 95.7, I look at it and I'm just sitting here and I understand, your legacy and tenure in this town is very long, very extensive, born and bred, the whole deal. But I look at the Chiefs and I said to myself, is there really any chance that Clark Hunt would just pick up this team and leave after 65 years? I don't see it. And even John Sherman. Okay, maybe the Royals are more likely. John Sherman's a Kansas City guy. All his minority investors are mostly Kansas City people. That feels like a fear tactic that the teams want the public to believe, but really isn't based in any kind of reality. So why do you think that fear does exist or should exist amongst the public?
Okay. Wasn't Stan Kroenke a Mizzou guy that made all his money through Walmart and he took his Rams to L.A. and built his own stadium?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it happens, and it's happened in Missouri. Listen, there's 5 years left on these leases, or a little more, 6 left on these leases. If you leave this to Quentin Lucas and Frank White to keep putting things on the ballot in Jackson County, you're telling me you don't think this could fail 2 or 3 more times? And if it fails 3 or 4 times and Kansas doesn't step up and there's nothing from the state of Missouri, anything could happen, Pete. Nashville is just sitting there dying for a baseball team. These men are businessmen. Here's what's not going to happen. They're not playing beyond these leases in their current stadiums. They're not going to do it. They want new ballparks. And maybe the Chiefs would do a reimagined Arrowhead, but I think that's just a load of hooey. There is no chance Clark Hunt is going to go to the owners' meetings with all these other owners that have these $2 and $3 billion stadiums, brand new, and all the cool stuff they've got, and go, hey, we just got a 3/16 sales tax, and we put $400 million back into Arrowhead. He's done that 2 or 3 times. He's done. This man wants a new stadium, and I don't blame him. He's won 3 Super Bowls. We will get the Super Bowl in Kansas City. We will get multiple Final Fours. He will make more money than he's ever made, but he needs a new stadium to do it. So do we think he's going to wait for the Royals to build a new stadium before they raise Kauffman Stadium and he can build a new stadium next to the old Arrowhead? Or do we think he's going to take some sweet land out at the Speedway and just do it all out there while the state of Kansas pays for 70% of it free, which no other owner ever in the history of the NFL got? You tell me what he's going to do.
Why would he then even offer, like he did, and spend millions of dollars to try to drag the Royals across the finish line on April 2nd if the whole plan was to go to Kansas?
Pete, did you see the renderings of the reimagined Arrowhead?
The ones that like some random person made up on Twitter?
Yeah, no. Right. No, I'm talking about the ones where Mark Donovan had a news conference.
Yes, of course.
Tell me the number one main feature. What was the one thing? Was there any headline out of that?
I thought the steps looked pretty nice coming out of the parking lot.
The steps out of the parking lot. Oh, the walking bridge that they were going to have? This was a joke, okay? They could have gone over here to the middle school by my house, okay, and had an eighth grader draw up better plans for a reimagined Arrowhead than that. The Chiefs were never in on that, Pete. They were never in. They did it to save face. What the Chiefs were in on was get the Royals the hell away from us.
Yeah.
That's what the Chiefs were in on.
I agree on that.
Get them out of here.
Yes.
That's all they wanted. They were going to take the money and do something else. They were not doing what they proposed. It was an absolute joke. And now the Manny Abarca and all these people, we're going to put a 3/16 sales tax for the Chiefs only. How much money are we talking about here? $400 million out of that sales tax over 30 years? That is not enough. They don't want to refurbish this. They're going to need $1.5 billion to build a new stadium. Kansas is offering 70% of the price absolutely free. If Jackson County thinks they can go to some 3/16 sales tax and keep the Chiefs at Arrowhead by painting it and fixing some concrete and putting some new seats in, they're idiots. They're fools. It isn't going to happen. There's just no chance. Literally, if he wants $2 billion to move to Kansas, the state of Kansas will give him $1.4 billion free. Free money. Missouri can't touch that, or at least hasn't to this point. They better forget their little Jackson County sales tax. That ain't going to work with the Chiefs.
Do you really think, though, I mean, when you look at what goes on at Arrowhead, I mean, it is a bucket list for fans, and it has been for quite some time around the country. I mean, you think about it now, I think it's right up there with Lambeau Field. Don't you think that's worth something? Because as far as I can tell, all these new stadiums look nice, but the fan experience, from what I can tell, is not what people are looking for. I mean, they're all the same, Kevin. There's no character to any of these places.
Man, I don't know. I know these owners, and they love their money, and they are cash machines. I got some numbers here for you. I came prepared today. Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, they moved from San Francisco, maybe the most beautiful place a park ever was, the old Candlestick, to Santa Clara. They have paid it off so quickly, they've saved $100 million in interest. They've done this by getting Super Bowls, Taylor Swift, all this other stuff. The majority is paid off 15 years early on this stadium. They borrowed money, and then they sold construction seat licenses. So when you buy the good premium seats for the new stadium, a portion of that annually goes toward paying off the stadium. The Raiders borrowed $650 million from Bank of America, $200 million from the NFL. Then they sold naming rights to Allegiant for $20 million a year for 30 years, $600 million. They didn't get $1.4 billion from the state of Nevada. These owners do not have the deal that's on the table for Clark Hunt. Jerry Jones got $325 million to move from Irving to Arlington and had to pay most of that back. It was basically a privately funded stadium. He borrowed his own money and paid for it. Clark Hunt doesn't have to borrow squat to build a new stadium. He's crushed his dad's legacy. I don't care what anybody says. Clark Hunt's a better owner than his dad was. He's won 3 times as many Super Bowls as his dad did. It's time for that stadium to go and do something new. And if it's at that location, great. Denver did this. They're not looking back at the old Mile High. Very sad about it. The Cowboys did it. They're not looking at the old stadium in Irving, which was an iconic American stadium, far more iconic than Arrowhead. They left there, and nobody's looked back in Texas. This is not what you do anymore. This is stupid. They've renovated that thing enough. These stadiums are from an era where all the stadiums have been raised, Pete. There is no great classic stadium from the 70s. In fact, there's no stadium left from the 70s anywhere in America. It was the worst era of stadium building in our history. It's not old enough to be iconic. It's not Lambeau. It's not Wrigley. It's not Fenway. Okay? And it's not new enough to provide what the Chiefs want. It makes no sense to pour hundreds of millions of dollars in there. And I'll tell the voters of Jackson County right now, if you think renovating Arrowhead is going to keep the Chiefs in Jackson County, they're just going to circle back in 10 more years and still want to build a new stadium. So you better build them a new stadium.
Kevin Kietzman on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. You buy what the Kansas legislature is selling, saying all we need are these star bonds and everyone's going to just be living high on the hog and all this money is going to flow in. You really believe these politicians on that front?
Not my problem. I'm not the taxpayer. I'm not on the hook for it. Nobody is. It's not my problem. They're all a bunch of liars. We know that politicians are thieves. We know they're in it to get seats in the suite and go to the Super Bowl, and Laura Kelly wants some sort of legacy that she got an NFL team to Kansas. They're all in it for themselves. I get it. But the math on it is pretty good. If you take all the sales tax, which the Chiefs are going to pay anyway, no matter where they are, they have to pay sales tax on all their revenue. If that goes toward paying off their stadium, that's a free stadium. No owner has ever gotten that deal. And that's why we saw this thing with the Royals, this rendering in the West Bottoms that Rob Heineman came up with. That stadium sits in Kansas, and some of the stuff is in Missouri. It's right on the state line. It's a really cool idea, but I'm not sure Kansas will go for that. But the Royals probably should look at it and say, if we could put the stadium in Kansas, it's the same deal for them. By the way, that stadium is the best proposal for a Royals ballpark yet. At least, for God's sake, it has a view of the skyline. If you're going to do a downtown ballpark, give me a view of the skyline, or you're wasting your time. That's why this Royals plan was so botched. They had all these locations, and they all sucked. And they changed 2 weeks out. They didn't know what they want to do. The West Bottoms thing looks cool to me. It actually looks kind of cool. And you could sit in your seat and see the skyline. That makes sense. But make no mistake about it, the Royals know the same thing. The offer from Kansas is better than any offer any baseball team has ever had. They're going to have to say no to the best thing any owners have ever been offered.
The only thing is, and we still don't have the information, who's going to own the stadiums? My understanding of star bonds is the property or the buildings themselves have to be owned privately. These teams don't want to own these stadiums. They don't. They want to.
Patrick Tuohy told me that. I had Patrick Tuohy on my podcast today, and he said the same thing. I said, why not? Jerry Jones does. He loves it. They're both. Here's what people don't pay enough attention to on this. They both want to be developers. This isn't just about their team. The Royals want to build condos, hotels, stores, shops, restaurants. Those are private businesses. If you get a star bond that allows you to build, I don't know, let's just say a $200 million condo building, and the state is going to pay for 70% of that, you're worried about your taxes on that? No. The taxes are way cheaper than the debt you would incur by borrowing the money and building it yourself. You're way ahead by owning your own stadium. I don't get it. Jerry Jones is the model. He owns his stadium. I don't hear him complaining that he has to pay tax on it. It's been the greatest thing Jerry Jones ever did. That man was broke. That franchise was broke, and he's a multi-billionaire. He's made all the right moves. Oh, Stan Kroenke left St. Louis.
Well, except on the football field. He hasn't made any good moves on the football field in about 3 decades. But yes, your point. Okay. He's made good business deals. But Kevin, that stadium sucks, by the way.
Stan Kroenke left St. Louis and built his own stadium in L.A. He built his own stadium. He owns it. This is the trend. This is where it's going. These guys are so rich, and they're so egotistical. They want to own their own stadium. They want that, and they want everything around it because there's more revenue than just football games. It's massive, dude. This is a big, big deal. And listen, I'm not rooting, and I don't care. I'm just telling you, I don't think anything in Missouri can beat what's being offered in Kansas other than location or tradition. That's what they have going for them. And if they stay in Missouri, I'm okay with that. I don't really care where they go. What I'm excited about is I hear idiots like Quentin Lucas say, competition is bad. We have a truce. No. Competition is what made America. Everything that makes us great in this country is because of competition. And competing here has me excited, and it has the entire city engaged in talking about what's possible, not what we settle for. We were settling on that vote in April. That was crap. That vote in April was crap.
Competition is good in the free market. This is corporate cronyism with the taxpayer in large part involved. To me, that's not competition, Kevin.
What taxpayer is it? What taxpayer is involved in Kansas? You live in Kansas. What's it going to cost you to do this?
Well, I don't know yet because we don't even know what the local tax ask is going to be. It can't be funded by just star bonds, Kevin. There's no way. There's no way. You're telling me you don't think you don't think a city or a
70% to build.
Who's paying road infrastructure? Who's going to pay for all the improvements around the stadium that need to be made infrastructurally? All those questions we don't have answers to.
If you can get the feds to pay for exits off of the interstates, that's great. But you're telling me if this is private development, it's private development.
I don't believe
they're going to pay for 70%. If the Chiefs want to build a hotel around their stadium, they get 70% of that too. That would be pretty easy to find a hotel partner.
I don't believe for a second because I don't trust the politicians that there's
Okay.
a
Good enough.
way that
Great.
the taxpayer's not going to be on the hook in some capacity.
That's a totally different discussion, and I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
But if you're telling me there's going to be some sort of an income tax tacked onto this, then no, I'm not for it in any way. I don't believe in income taxes. I think the whole concept of income taxes is stupid. I think sales taxes and use taxes are just fine. I get the choice of whether I want to buy a ticket or not and pay the tax that built the stadium. That's my choice.
Yeah.
And if you don't like sports, this doesn't affect you. I'm cool with that.
If it's truly a
looks like a
user
great plan to
tax,
me.
if it's truly a user tax, that's a different conversation. But also, where's the Star Bond District, built? Where is it drawn? Does it include places that they claim will benefit from having a stadium nearby that are not even in the district? I just have so many questions still on this that need to be answered. Kevin, I think this is best said.
I agree with that. I agree with you on that point. We don't know it all. I'm just saying the offer that they put up to these teams has never been offered to any owners ever. If it's legit and it all works out that way, these owners are going to have a really hard time saying no to Kansas. But that West Bottoms thing is really cool. If the Royals could put their stadium in Kansas and get that cheap money, that free money, and have a view of the downtown skyline, that would be a perfect fit.
Kevin Kietzman on KCMO Talk Radio. This is the best line on the text line here, Kevin, I've got in the last 10 minutes. Pete, whatever Kietzman is on, give some of that to Joe Biden for the debate next week. So you're fired up, man, and I appreciate that here on KCMO.
Thank you. Competing is exciting. Let's see what's possible in this town, and let's not settle.
Kevin, have a great day, my friend. Check out the podcast. Kevin Kietzman Has Issues. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, buddy.
You bet.